Today, we are diving into a really powerful story from the legendary writer Munshi Premchand. It's called Aap-Beeti, and it's this personal tale that gets at a question that's, well, pretty timeless. How easily can our own vanity make us completely blind to the truth? I mean, just think about it for a second. Has a little bit of praise, a well-timed compliment, ever made you just drop your guard? Maybe a little too much? Well, that is exactly the situation our narrator is about to find himself in. All right, let's get into it. The story kicks off with our main character, a writer, getting tangled up in a web that's pretty much spun from his own ego. So, like a lot of creative people, he kind of lives for the approval of his audience, right? So when fan mail starts rolling in praising his work, he just feels like he's on top of the world. It's so intoxicating, it makes him forget all the day-to-day struggles of his real life. And here is where we see a true masterclass in flattery. A letter shows up from a poet, a guy named Patina Narayan. And he doesn't just say, hey, great work. No, he makes it incredibly personal, talking about how much his wife admires the narrator. This compliment is so targeted, it just hits our narrator right where he's most vulnerable. So what does he do? Drunk on all this praise, he writes back and completely reinvents his own past. I mean, look at this. His dad, who was an office clerk, suddenly becomes the head of the office. His family's humble farming roots? Nope. Now they're a landowning dynasty. He's building this whole fantasy just to match the flattering picture someone else painted of him. Okay, so let's see what happens next. The whole thing escalates from just letters to a real-life encounter, and you can just feel the trap about to snap shut. And bam! Just like that, the poet himself is at the door. But he's not what the narrator pictured. He's short, unassuming, kind of plain. A friend who's there immediately gets a bad feeling and whispers, hey, be careful, this guy looks like a cheat. But our narrator, still riding high on his own inflated self-importance, just scoffs. No way his great admirer could be anything but genuine. And then the con begins. Umapati just weaves this perfectly crafted sob story. Oh, he was robbed on the train. He has to get to his in-laws' house. It's an emergency. And oh, the shame, the absolute shame if he shows up empty-handed. You can see how every single step is designed to prey on the narrator's pride and sense of social duty. He asks for 50 rupees. Now, you gotta understand, that was a huge amount of money back then. And the narrator, he does hesitate for a second. This is a lot, but his pride is on the line now, isn't it? I mean, how can a great writer from a grand family not help out a devoted fan in his time of need? But there's one voice of reason in the room, his wife. She sees right through this whole performance. And her warning, it's so sharp, so prophetic. She basically says, go ahead and give it to him, but consider that money just thrown away. She knows exactly what's happening, even if her husband is totally determined not to see it. So, of course, he gives him the money. And now we get to the next chapter of the story, the aftermath. This one bad experience starts to poison his entire outlook on other people. The betrayal just unfolds in this slow, painful way. The poet actually comes back, but get this, not only does he not repay the 50 rupees, he spins another story and gets another 25 out of him. And after that, crickets. Total silence. Letters are sent, they're ignored. The ghosting is absolute. So the final price tag for his vanity? 75 rupees. Poof, gone. And this experience, it just fundamentally changes him. He becomes a cynic. He's suddenly convinced that everyone is just out for themselves, and that being kind is just a weakness waiting to be taken advantage of. And wouldn't you know it, almost immediately, this brand new cynical worldview gets put to the test. He's forced to look in the mirror and confront the person he's become. So, not long after all this, his new philosophy is challenged. A young employee at his printing press who is genuinely sick comes to him for help. And the contrast couldn't be more stark. This isn't some smooth-talking poet. It's a desperate young man. The moral choice here is crystal clear. And his request is just so simple, so honest. It's kind of heartbreaking. There's no fancy story, no flattery, just a direct plea for help from a sick kid who really wants to go home. But the narrator's heart has just hardened. All he sees is another Umapati, another potential con artist. And he turns the boy away with this cold, flimsy excuse. The poison has done its job. He has completely failed this moral test. And here's the twist that changes everything. Another colleague, just a simple clerk, lends the sick employee the 15 rupees he needs. And what happens? Just 5 days later, the money is paid back in full. This one small act of trust just shatters the narrator's cynical new worldview to pieces. And this brings us to the final act of the story, a reckoning that nobody saw coming, where the consequences of everyone's actions, good and bad, finally come into the light.
He's just overwhelmed with shame. So he does the only thing he knows how to do. He writes. He puts the entire embarrassing story of being conned into an article and publishes it, not for revenge, but more like a public confession of his own foolishness and the cruelty that came after.
And then, the absolute impossible happens. A money order shows up in the mail for the full 75 rupees, and it's from Uma Patina Narayan. On the little coupon, there's no long explanation, no excuse, just one single powerful word: forgiveness. And it just hangs there in the air, right? It raises way more questions than it answers. Is he asking for forgiveness, or is he granting it? But it's his wife, again, who delivers the story's incredible final moral. She tells him, when a good person breaks their promise, you shouldn't just jump to the conclusion that they're a liar. You should maybe consider that they were desperate. And shaming a helpless person, she says, that's just not right. And that's where the story leaves us. It forces us to look past these easy labels of con man and victim and ask something much, much deeper about empathy, about desperation, and about the real price we pay when we lose our faith in other people. So who do you think was really more to blame here? Let us know what you think down in the comments. For more explainers that dig into the big questions from classic stories, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.